السلام. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome, or should I say, welcome back. We're here for our second installment of the CIOGC MYNA collaboration webinar. My name is Imran Abdul Khalik, and I'll be your MC for tonight's event. Last time, we had an opportunity to share and present the intent of this collaboration between CIOGC and MYNA, but this time, we're going to try to expand on that a little bit more. As you may recall, MYNA spoke about their programs and who they are and why MYNA, and we'll recap a little bit of that, but we'll also talk about the one event that we promised you that we would bring more information about. This event was the winter camp, the MYNA winter camp that's coming up this December. Now, regarding this camp, one of the goals for tonight is to fulfill its capacity. MashaAllah, they already have a large number of registrants, but there's still a few spots remaining. And even though the early registration deadline has passed, MYNA has agreed that just by attending this webinar and mentioning it, MYNA has stated that they'll waive that late registration fee for those individuals tonight. So you may be driving back from a family vacation, or you've been at home, you're hosting, you're sitting back, relaxing, just enjoying your time. And inshallah, either way, that's great, because we're just happy that you're here to join us. So, a few things before we get started. Let's call it the agenda for tonight. One is I'll be speaking to you about what CIOGC has been up to since we last spoke a couple months back. And then after that, we'll have our MYNA representatives. They'll speak about the camp and kind of expand on what's going on there. And then inshallah, of course, we're going to be hoping that we're going to reach that full capacity. But then last but not least, we have a guest speaker from the Qalam Institute. Mufti Hussein Kamani is going to be joining us here live to share a few words about some of the topics that's going to be covered at the MYNA camp. But before we begin with all of this, we'll start with the recitation of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by one of Chicagoland's Hufaz. Here from the west suburbs, we have one of Chicago's very own teachers, Hafiz Mujtaba Ashfaq. Would you? I'm going to put you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'd like to thank Imran and CIOGC and MYNA for inviting me to recite and begin with the recitation of the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا فضربنا على لبثهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين أحصى لما لبثوا أمدا نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا صدق الله العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, do you think that the people of the cave and the inscription or the news or the names of the people of the caves were a wonder among our signs? Remember, when the young men fled for refuge from their disbelieving folk to the cave, they said, "Our Lord, bestow on us mercy from yourself and facilitate for us our affair in the right way." Therefore, we covered up their sense of hearing, causing them to go in a deep sleep in the cave for a number of years. Then we raised them from their sleep that we might test which of the two parties was best at calculating the time period that they had carried. We narrate to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their story with truth. Truly they were young men who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. And we made their hearts firm and strong with the light of Iman in Allah and bestowed upon them sabr to bear the separation of their kith and kin and dwellings. When they stood up and said, "Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Never shall we call upon any other God other than Him. If we did, we should indeed have uttered an enormity in disbelief." Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Maju. Honestly, Maju's kind of a local favorite of mine, so it's always a pleasure when I get to hear him recite or even pray behind him. So Jazakallah khair once again, Maju, and we'll talk to you soon, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, the first thing I wanted to speak to you about is basically what CIOGC has been doing in the past, call it few months since we last spoke. So part of that is an initiative, call it, let's say, a youth network around the Chicagoland area. So what we've been doing in the past, let's say, few months, CIOGC has been in discussions with the local institutions and Chicagoland area masajid and speak about various goals that they may have or plans, etc., and challenges. Regardless of who we spoke to, one common theme for the masajid has always been the future. And in this case specifically, they're talking about areas of development that can be expanded on regarding our younger generation. However, of course, when you have such a wide range of masajid in the Chicagoland area, every masajid or institution has a different level of, call it, capabilities, resources, or ideas even. Some were certainly further along, whereas others may just be getting started. So anyways, we understood that as an individual organization, trying to accommodate each and every institution, the resources just aren't even there for ourselves, right? So the idea is to go about a different approach. The first of that approach is, instead of reinventing the wheel, we looked at what was already kind of established from a holistic standpoint. That's where the root of, quite frankly, the MYNA and CIOGC collaboration began and what we shared in our last webinar. So since that time, CIOGC is kind of working on the second prong of this approach. That second prong involves establishing a youth network within the already established institutions and masajids that CIOGC is already partnering with. So that brings us to this little funny looking map at the bottom of the screen that you're looking at, right? You can ignore the red dot or green dot. Just know that these dots, each one represents an Islamic institution within the area. Now, this could range from as far south as, like you see, I think Orland Park, maybe Tinley Park is on there, and then, or Frankfurt even, and then you roll as far north up to the Wisconsin border where you have Libertyville, where the institution like Islamic Foundation North is. And then, of course, along the whole eastern coast where you have Lake Michigan, there's a bunch of Islamic institutions. And then that you just carry that west as you go across the screen out to Aurora, Naperville, Elgin, Crystal Lake. Why am I saying all this? Because what does it mean? It just means there's a lot of area to cover. And as you can imagine, it's not an easy endeavor as each location kind of has its own set of priorities. That being said, we should probably touch on why we think this youth network is of value, right? And that's when I wanted you to take a look at the top 3 bullets up there. Very simple, straightforward concepts. When you look at a network and you're building a network, you want to be able to promote and publicize various programs to each other or activities, etc. And then you can establish partnerships. This, for example, doesn't have to be through CIOGC necessarily, but as you can see from the map, when you've got a bunch of masajids or maybe even 1 or 2 masajids that are so close to one another, they are ones that could potentially partner with one another and then share resources. But we have to start somewhere. So where is that somewhere? That somewhere is on the what I call the discovery phase. That's the right side of that screen. This is where you see a list of institutions. And this by no means is the full list. This has become just the first, call it week or 2 weeks of dialogue where these different masajids have already been in contact with CIOGC or we've been in contact with them, and they are now wanting to build on this possibility of creating a CIOGC youth network, and they want to be a part of this network. So that's the idea with these masajids. Now, if you don't see them on the screen and you attend a certain institution and you want your institution to get involved with this, by all means, have them contact CIOGC. I'll give you my my email address, inshallah, and then we can go ahead and go from there on the next one. Lastly, let me go to the next slide. I want to talk about maybe what we're planning on developing through this youth network. So through this youth network, we'll have upcoming webinars similar to like today's. We're going to have a portion of what MYNA is doing, and then we're going to have a portion of what the local CIOGC masajids are doing, or this youth network is doing. And each webinar is going to have a different theme, right? There's going to be, like you see the ones up here, it could be educational options, volunteer activities, physical activities. It could be like sports tournaments or something along those lines, mentorship, and then last but not least, all of these different themes is going to have a tone of spiritual development. So that one, without fail, that's what makes us different as Muslims, right? So we want to make sure we include that spiritual development throughout any of our themes that we go. And you can decide how to do this, right? To a certain extent. It'll be as an individual, as a youth, as someone growing up, or as a parent, you want to establish some of these goals. And these goals could let's take a simplest one of all together. Could be just attending the masjid, right? Maybe make it a goal to attend 1 prayer a week or 2 prayers a week. Or if you want to start getting a little bit more ambitious, go once a day for a salah, right? But regardless of what it is, let's just take one consistent approach and be consistent in your goal, inshallah. Okay. So once again, if you don't see your institution identified up here, I will give you my email address that's scrolling across the ticker on the bottom. And if you need or want your institution to be involved with this youth network, again, email me and we'll inshallah reach out to them and give me a contact information and an email from that institution, and we'll kind of work from there. All right, so that covers it from, let's say, the CIOGC activities as far as what we're doing right now. And our next slide will be handing it over to our friends at MYNA. And to have, I guess, to kick this off, I'll ask Sister Fatima Yusuf to start. She is the MYNA North Central Chair. So let me add her, and there she is. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fatima.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'll leave you be and do your thing.
So as Brother Imran said, I'm the North Central Program Chair, which basically means that my job is basically to plan events and schedule them to and everything we're going to do in the event and make the agenda for it. And in the next slide, we'll show you why I personally chose to work for MYNA and everything that MYNA does.
This is Imran. I'm back on the screen, and it sounded like I got some comments saying that the sound was not working through that video, and I apologize. If you would like to hear that video, please go to MYNA.org, and they have this video available to you. For whatever reason, we were unable to get the sound to play, but I apologize for that. So, Fatima, you may have to, if you don't mind, kind of recap a little bit as to why maybe you joined MYNA and what's there for you, if you wouldn't mind, please.
No problem at all. So the reason I joined MYNA personally was because it's a youth-led organization that is focusing on bringing Muslim youth's voices to and projecting Muslim youth voices to people all around the country, and also helping them feel more confident in their holistic identity. And it's all youth-led. Youth are the ones that are making the decision, and youth know best of what we need living in the West, because we are the ones that every day have to go out and actively know we are different and have to live and keep our spirituality while also knowing that we are a minority. So the reason I chose MYNA was just because I knew I could make an impact, because this organization really put forth what youth need and what youth want before anything else, and really just let youth shine. And one way they do this is through the MYNA Winter Camp. So I'm the program chair, so that just means I made the agenda of what's going to happen in the winter camp. So MYNA's goal is to strengthen youth's like Islamic identity and their foundation, which will make them more like confident in their holistic identity and make sure that they can apply these lessons into their life in the real world, in their jobs and in their education. So with this camp, we're meshing the spirituality and the spiritual development that MYNA is known for, of uplifting youth, making them feel more confident in their faith and also learning, and meshing it with leadership values. So this camp is more like it's a leadership plus spiritual camp. And we're going to go over leadership values such as implicit bias and emotional intelligence, which both are needed in the work field, especially with implicit bias being something we all have, and sometimes it's never addressed, as we see like in ourselves, of like in our communities, we might be facing bias because of our religion, because of our race, but implicit bias is never really commonly addressed. So we address that also while talking about emotional intelligence and how we can use emotions of people to our benefit rather than to our downfall in leadership. So using like our teams, like work and group, like work ethic and all that, and using that to your strength rather than letting stress get to your group or tire you down, and really like just addressing how to work together as a team and not letting your emotions be something that makes your team weaker. While we also have mentorship opportunities with speakers. So we have speakers such as Sheikh Saad Qadri and Brother Numan Hussein that are going to come speak to us, and we are giving youth the opportunity to be able to ask questions to them, ask questions about their faith, because we really want like youth to know that Islam doesn't dictate that you don't have to like ask any questions, just blindly follow it. Islam opens it up. Islam's really open about asking questions about the faith and really just getting to know it. So we're going to open that up for the youth with speakers, and then counselors are people that are just regular people who are over 19 can be counselors, and they're just going to be people who work in the real world, and they can ask questions about how they live, like what's their life like, how do they balance spirituality and like workplace and being a minority and being in a workplace, and just have mentorship opportunities where campers can discuss anything they want, whether that be spirituality or just real world issues. And then this camp also has a focus of reflection, looking within and seeing what is in my life that I can change, what can I do better, and like also trying to build that confidence within ourselves with that self-reflection, and really just looking within and seeing and trying to make active change in our lives to become better Muslims and be proud of who we are and be more confident in our holistic identity. And spiritual wise stuff we're talking about is touching on leadership attributes that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had, that the Sahabas, the 4 Khalifas had, and just talking about what we can learn from that and lessons we can learn from them having to lead people whenever they were a minority, when they were being attacked, and just how to like take on lessons that the stories of prophets can teach us, and like this, and what the 4 Khalifas can teach us, and the Sahabas, and just learning from like what they went through and how we can apply that in our own leadership and our own lives to make our leadership as great as we can. So then the next slide kind of talks more about logistics of the camp. So this camp will run in Camp Duncan in Ingleside, Illinois from December 26th to January 1st. And Niseba, who is our outreach chair, can talk more about it as well.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Niseba Fayruzi. I am the North Central Outreach Chair, and I want to talk to you a little bit about like our camp structure, and just how our days usually go about. But starting off, so our North Central camp will take place December 26th throughout January 1st, and it's going to take place in Camp Duncan, which is in Ingleside, Illinois. And the cool thing about these winter camps is that campers can really feel like that camp feel with being able to like stay in like real cabins. They usually utilize their time in cabins to reflect on the various things they've learned throughout the day, and kind of just like time to bond with fellow campers. So it's like campers really enjoy their bonding time in those spaces. And we typically in a day have lectures where we get to hear from different scholars and speakers, and you have the opportunity to ask questions, personal questions relating to either their talk or, just utilize them as a mentor, and ask any further questions that they've always been curious about. And then we have workshops, and these workshops are geared more towards leadership aspects, where youth will have the opportunity to have team building exercises and kind of be thrown in the deep end, so to say, where they have to kind of like take initiative as a leader, and they kind of get to find their own leadership within their different scenarios and situations we put them into. And it's a great way for youth to kind of see their strengths and some of their weaknesses and work upon those throughout camp. And there's also like probably the part that most campers look forward to, which is the bonfire, towards the end of camp, where campers kind of get to sit together and reflect on their time and their lectures and the time they've spent together, and eat s'mores too. It's like very enjoyable for youth, and we typically do a lot of dua and kind of have this spiritual atmosphere where we're in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while still, being around like your fellow Muslim peers. So it's always like fun for a lot of people. And our schedule always is worked around our 5 daily prayers, because we think that's an important structure that a lot of youth need. And, it's a great way for us to kind of get some youth who aren't as familiar versus those who are very familiar, and strengthen their skills, and strengthen their recitation and their leading prayers, and all of that. And we use this time to do adhkar and khatiras, which are basically like where campers can kind of give like khutbas and do their own research on different like hadiths and surahs that they feel passionate about, and kind of share it with the rest of the campers. And we love to use the time to make group dua, let campers kind of lead their own du'as and make dua for others around them. So that's basically the bulk of camp. And then the more like entertaining side that campers really enjoy is our rec time that we have for them every day. And campers have the opportunity to use paintball. Also, there's arts and crafts, climbing tower. There's tie-dye activities where they can, tie-dye different items, shirts, socks, pants, whatever they want. There's also sledding, because, it's winter. So we love to allow campers to kind of use their resources around them and have fun with that. Again, there's also, basketball, gaga ball, just we want this time to be dedicated for the youth to kind of unwind and have time to kind of let loose. And towards the middle-ish of our different activities, we like to include open spaces. And open spaces has always been a hit for MYNA camps. If you ask anyone, I know personally, like that's one of the most memorable parts of camp, where youth get to sit in these circles and kind of share their different experiences and thoughts, and ask thought-provoking questions to different campers, and it really gets a lot of conversation going and opens up a lot of minds, and lets youth see different topics that they've heard one way, a different way, and just kind of share that perspective while still under the foundation of Islam. So like I know a lot of youth enjoy that and utilize that as group bonding, and making stronger connections with those around them. And then ending off, we have an entertainment night, which is the last night of camp, where youth can kind of use this time to showcase some of their talents. I know some years we have violinists, we have pianists, and people share like some of their yo-yo tricks, and just for youth to kind of share what they feel is special to them and what they're passionate about. So yeah, and I can hand this off to Sister Fatima if you want to take the next slide.
So this is a camper testimonial we have, and they said, I would say MYNA played a critical role in some of the most transformative years of my life. Not only was I able to create meaningful, lasting friendships with kids across the U.S., I always left with an incredible rejuvenation of my being. So much of my life, who I am now, and how I got here is because of the choice I made to go to my first MYNA camp and enter into the MYNA world. So now we'll transition to the Q&A section. So I'll hand it back off to Brother Imran.
I've seen a few questions come through, and I will kind of get to these, and I'll leave it to either you, Sister Fatima, or Sister Nusayba to respond. I think you touched on this just a little bit, but what do you have COVID-19 protocols for this camp?
We do have protocols, so all the campers are required to be vaccinated, and everyone on site at camp will be vaccinated before the camp. And to enter camp, you need to have a COVID negative test with you, and then on site you will get tested to make sure that you are all negative for COVID-19. And then throughout camp, basically the campsite, so Camp Duncan and Chicago's guidelines, those come first. So as of right now, their guidelines are that outdoor events, you don't have to have a mask, but indoor events, you will. So as we learn more about their guidelines, it will be up to the campsite to decide what our guidelines are. But what we're leading with right now is that masks will be mandatory for the first 3 days of camp to establish a cohort of people that are all negative. And then moving on from there, masks will not be implemented, but everyone, if showing signs with COVID-19, will be sent home and be tested. And the campers' safety is at like the utmost priority. So they will all be safe, and we will make sure that like COVID-19 isn't an issue, and we will control it as best as we can.
Very good. Second question, and I've got a total of 3, so just keep that in mind. The second one is, there is financial aid, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was one question. And is that something they just apply for? Is that something that's available during registration? I think that's the question that they're trying to.
So when you go to MYNA.org/camps, there will be a button on the website that says apply for financial aid, and you will first apply for that. And then you'll see like MYNA will get back to you on like how much financial aid you will receive, and then you'll apply from camp after you see that. So first you'd apply for financial aid, and then you'd apply for camp. But we don't want money ever being an issue for a camper not to come. So please, if you need, like, apply for financial aid.
Good. And I'm actually getting a message saying that the spots are filling up. So inshallah, that's going well. And I appreciate the viewers that have been registering as well. So fantastic to hear. 2 more questions. It says, my daughter can't make it to this camp. Are there other camps that she can attend?
So we will have a spring camp and a summer camp, and the dates for the spring camp are March 25th to the 27th. So yes, your daughter will have the opportunity to come to other camps if she cannot come to this one, and we do have other opportunities for camp. So this is just for the winter camp. We do have a spring camp and a summer camp.
Very good. And last one. My child is a little too old for this camp. So I'm guessing they're over the age of 18. Do they have any other opportunities within MYNA that they can kind of partake in?
So they can apply to be a counselor if they're over the age of 19. So they can apply to be a counselor, and you're basically a counselor would have the opportunity to mentor youth and get to know youth and like talk to them, and you could join MYNA through mentorship of being a counselor throughout the camp. And I know personally I've heard many stories of counselors making a very big impact on campers' lives whenever they go to camp. So if you are over 19 and you still want to be part of MYNA, I would highly recommend being a counselor, and because it's very rewarding, and you also get to have a lot of fun because camp is a lot of fun to be at.
Excellent. Very good. Well, if you, I think there's going to be more questions coming in, and we'll tell you what, we'll go back to that because our guest speaker is here. Mufti Hussein Kamani has joined us, and I will kind of hand it over to you, sir. For those that don't know, Mufti Hussein Kamani from the Qalam Institute in particular has graciously offered to join us this evening from his home in Dallas. I understand he's kind of juggling schedules, so Jazakallah khair, Mufti Hussein, and by all means, please take it away.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. خصوصا على سيد الرسول وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء. أما بعد. One of the things that we commonly hear our elders and the more senior folks in the community saying is that the youth of our community today are the futures of tomorrow. They are the future leaders of tomorrow. And this is a very profound statement that young folks today need to prepare themselves with the skills required and needed to be the leaders tomorrow, because those that are leading today will move on. That happens in many forms. That happens through utilizing this young age to spiritually develop yourself, physically ensure that you are properly developed, to make sure that emotionally, intellectually, you have also developed the right life skills, and so on. When we look at some of the greatest people in Islamic history who made change, whether it was the story of Salahuddin Ayyubi, who played such a phenomenal role in the conquest of Al-Quds and to liberate it from the grip of the unfortunate occupiers at the time who had slayed thousands and thousands of Muslims. Or whether it was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who became one of the great Khalifas of the Umayyad period and spread justice throughout the land, or any of these people. Opportunity presented itself to them, but prior to that opportunity coming, when they were in their 30s and when they were in their 40s, long before that, from their childhood, they had started their development to be ready in case that ever did happen. If someone is thinking that, you know what, I'll start my development once the opportunity presents itself, once I'm already doing da'wah, once I'm at the front of a political campaign, once I am leading a movement, then I'll figure out my spirituality, it won't work. What you need to do is develop yourself and figure yourself out from before. So therefore, when they say that today's youth are tomorrow's leaders, it's in reality a passover of the responsibilities. It's to remind us that we have an overall answering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding life in general. But then there is a specific question regarding how we spent our youth. To that, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لَن تَزُولَ قَدَمَا إِبْنِ آدَمَ, that the feet of the son of Adam, meaning the insan's feet, will remain firm, planted on the day of judgment, and they will not be allowed to go anywhere. حَتَّى يُسْأَلْ عَنْ أَرْبَعٍ, until that person is asked regarding four things. Every person will be asked regarding four things. And only after these four things are answered will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the permission to move on with our journey of the day of judgment. عَنْ عُمْرِهِ فِيمَا أَفْنَى, Allah will ask regarding life. How did you spend it? وَعَنْ شَبَابِهِ فِي مَا أَبْلَاهُ. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla will ask regarding youth, that this young age of yours, what did you do with it? How did you develop yourself? Because when you're young, you have so much potential. It's nothing but potential. You have energy to do things for hours on end. When you get older, that goes out the window. When you're young, you can eat, you can think, you can read, you can do so much when you're young. So now with these years, you can either just choose to waste them in front of a screen and flush out all of the potential that lies in your life, or you can understand the opportunity you have and make something out of it. And I think that these camps are a great opportunity for young folks to step out of their comfort zone, to step out of their home and come to where Muslim youth are gathering together with the hope of benefiting from good companionship, with the hope of learning from each other, with the hope of sharing experiences, spiritually growing, gaining life experiences, bonding, seeing the diversity within the Muslim Ummah, all of this. Until you don't step out of your comfort zone, you won't know what's actually going on out there. Over the last decade plus, I've had the honor and opportunity to speak at many MYNA events. And I appreciate them because I feel like the young folks that come out there are very keen, they're very sincere. And a young group of people that age, so diverse from different walks of life and spanning from across the nation, is something that you don't find in every masjid. It's a unique crowd. And when I spoke at these events, and when I continue to speak at these events, I kid you not, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Because the Q&As are not just your average, oh, Mufti Saab, what's the ruling on some very obsolete hypothetical issue. Rather, it's more about practical things, that I'm struggling with drugs, I'm struggling with praying my salah, I'm having issues with my parents, and I'm struggling with gender issues, and how do I guide a friend of mine that's struggling with this? And the issues you're dealing with, they're so real. And a lot of these questions exist in every person's mind, but not everyone has the courage to even ask those questions. So when you're surrounded by young people, among a diverse group of folks who have come from different walks of life, and those questions are being asked, and you're sitting there, something that you've been reflecting over for a long time now is asked in front of you, and you get to hear that question and also hear the answer. Maybe you might be the one that has a follow-up question. And before you know it, a conversation starts, and that conversation goes on and on and on. That diversity of the Muslim Ummah is so beautiful, that sometimes as a brother, you're sitting there and you hear a sister ask a question and you think to yourself, well, I never thought of it from that perspective. And sometimes as a sister, you're sitting there and you hear a brother ask a question, and then you say to yourself that I never thought of it from that perspective. I didn't realize it. At the camps, we emphasize dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because where diversity and human interaction is important, unity is important, that we see each other, we trust each other, we respect each other. All of this only matters if it's ultimately embedded in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It must all be so that we are connected to Allah. Otherwise, what's the difference between what we do and your average sports camp? Therefore, morning adhkar, remembering Allah in the morning. Evening adhkar, remembering Allah in the evening. After every prayer, some dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once again, connecting and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when every day after salah, a group of young folks will get up and provide a little khatira, a little reminder. Again, in that there's a reminder for the listener and for the presenter. There's an opportunity to go and study Islam a little. You know that you have to present with your group in a day or two, so you have to prepare for it. You have to read it. You have to look into the content and try to understand it and understand how it's relevant and makes sense to you. And then pass that on to the folks that are around you. So therefore you learn how to publicly deliver that message. That training I keep talking about. You build confidence. because everyone is in love with their deen. Everyone loves their deen to some degree, but not everyone has the ability or the training to speak of it. Being in this environment gives you that opportunity. So tomorrow when you're in high school, tomorrow when you're in college and you're dealing with friends and colleagues, you can now talk to them about Islam publicly and not feel ashamed of yourself and feel confident in it. Because now this is something that you've done before. You've built a team. I know this whole thing sounds like a big commercial for the MYNA camps. But with the MYNA camp being around the corner, I think it's important that I do talk about some of the aspects of these camps that I have seen with my own eyes, and I found them to be beneficial, right? But the environment isn't just one of just getting together and chilling. It's not just a camping environment. It's an environment that is built on taqwa. Its goal is to bring consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people. And it's not a judgmental environment where people are judging you. It's where someone who has been around and has attended these gatherings for a long time can continue to learn with the lectures of scholars and students of knowledge. And those who are attending these gatherings for the first time, who may feel super intimidated, can also feel comfortable, because there are many people just like you who are trying this out for the first time. And these camps are here to facilitate that and to help you transition to maybe what you might refer to as a new chapter in your own life, something that's new, something that you haven't done before. I wanted to share a story. I was once at a MYNA camp, and I gave a lecture. And after the lecture, it was Asr time. And I led the Asr Salah. And I was just sitting there, just, kind of looking at the crowd, doing my dhikr. There was this young guy sitting at the back. He got up and he rushed out. And I could tell that something was off, something wasn't right. So one of the brothers, Brother Iyad, who was the head of that particular camp, I said to him, Iyad, something was off about that guy. Why don't you go follow him and follow up and check up on him? Let me deal with the youth here. I'll do the dhikr and kind of just, facilitate whatever's going to happen next in the day. But in the meantime, I need you to go check up on that person. So he quickly rushed off behind this young man, and he found the young man inside his cabin, and he was crying. So then my friend Iyad asked him, why are you crying? And he said, well, I've been Muslim all my life. This kid was like maybe 16, 17. I've been Muslim all my life. But the truth is, I don't even know how to pray Salah. And I've been here at this camp for 2-3 days, and every time it's Salah time, I kind of freak out because I'm worried that someone's going to find out I don't know how to pray. So I stand at the back, usually in the corner. I watch what other people do. I copy them a little bit here and there. And today, I just couldn't take it anymore, and I had a meltdown. That what kind of environment did I grow up in that as a Muslim, I don't even know how to pray Salah? So while he was explaining this to Iyad, I walked in. And I said, what happened? And he explained it to me. He was in tears. So we went and embraced him. And I said, you know what? Let's do something about this. Here's what we're going to do. There was a bathroom nearby. Iyad and I went there. Iyad held the camera. And I did wudu, and I recorded a video of me doing wudu for this young man. And I said, from now on, this is how you're going to do wudu. You're going to follow this video. So when it's time for wudu, you put the video in front of you, you hit play, and you watch it. And then I said to him, now I'm going to record Salah for you. And I want you to watch this and pray Salah just like I'm doing it now. It'll take a little time, but you'll learn to do it. That young man, when he had these 2 videos, he was in tears of joy because he felt that if anyone else found out about where he was spiritually and how little he knew about Islam, that would be a damnation to his honor and dignity. No one would ever be able to respect him again. But the environment that he was in was very different. He wasn't expecting that. This was an environment that embraced it, that welcomed it, that it's okay to be weak. But let's work on building your strength together. Because that's how we develop future leaders. It's not about where the journey starts, it's about how you proceed to find your destination. Everyone has a past, but only the smart know when it's time to move forward. everyone has a weak beginning. Every child struggles to take their first step. But then some of them turn into Usain Bolt, where they learn how to run, and they're the fastest runners in the world. But every Usain Bolt at one point in their life didn't know how to lift that leg. So as we explore ourselves and understand where we are and kind of acknowledge our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities, these camps and these opportunities become very important, because now we can utilize them to navigate towards a better version of ourselves. And that's the end of everything that I have to say today. I wanted to thank the Council of Islamic Organizations of the Greater Chicago area for putting this together and reaching out to me. Mina, as always, amazing work. And it's always a pleasure being here. Fatima is now in a car, so it's gotten really serious. She's obviously a very busy person, so we're very lucky to have Fatima with us today. And with that, folks, I'm going to go ahead and check out. It was a pleasure, as always, being here with you guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullah khair, Mufti Hussain. Fatima and Nusayba, I've got one last slide for you guys. I don't know if either one of you, obviously both of you are in very compromising positions, seems like. So feel free to chime in where you can, and otherwise, if you need me to fill in, I certainly can.
Yeah, I just wanted to first thank Mufti Hassan Kamani. That was such a great talk and like a beautiful reminder that I think all youth need to hear. And I know that many relate to that. So, inshallah, this camp is the step in that direction of, becoming stronger in our deen. So in terms of signing up for camp, if you go to www.mina.org, it's also in the chat, I believe, and you can register right now. I know that Brother mentioned Mina is registrants on this webinar to register with the same price that it was before, so the same low price. So feel free to register or even send the link out to anybody you think would be interested in. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact that email, northcentral.chair@mina.org. We would love to answer your questions. And you can also scan this QR code or take a screenshot of it or take a picture of it for future references if you want to share it to a friend or post it anywhere. Definitely utilize that as like a quick and easy way to register for camp. I know camp registration ends in 4 days, so definitely if you want to register, do it now before it's too late. So yeah, if you have any other questions, please feel free to text them in the chat. But I will hand it off to Brother Imran, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, appreciate it. As you can see, both Sister Nusayba and Fatima, they have other responsibilities that they're trying to split their time with. And quite honestly, after I heard Mufti Hussain speaking, I almost wish I was back to being somewhere between the ages of 12 and 18, just so I could attend the camp and kind of be around the environment. I feel bad that I wasn't able to get the video to work initially, so I want to give it another go. So we have a few minutes left, and I think we've answered the questions that have come in, and it looks like, as Sister Nusayba said, there were a number of registrants that are fulfilling the capacity, but they still have some space available. So I'm going to shoot one more chance to try to share this video as we leave, inshallah. And I hope, inshallah, to see you guys at the camp, or at least register for it. And then stay tuned to CIOGC and MYNA. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and all our social media outlets as well. We have more webinars, and we'll have some growing options and opportunities, inshallah, in our next webinar. And so that'll be after the winter camp. The winter camp, again, December 26th to 31. And then after that, inshallah, we'll have another time where we can kind of recap what happened at the camp, what's going on in Chicagoland, and inshallah share some more. So with that, I will say salam to everybody, but I'm going to go ahead and try to run that video one more time. So inshallah, you guys get a chance to see what Sister Nusayba, Sister Fatima, and even Mufti Hussein were really talking about as to why MYNA, inshallah. So salam alaikum and enjoy.
I come to MYNA because I feel most at home here.
Become a better person and a better Muslim for the sake of Allah.
Because I get to form new friendships while becoming closer to my deen. I come to MYNA to learn new things and find new friends.
We come to MYNA for family.
So the spiritual connection that I form with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout every single camp is something that I always want to come back for.
I get questions that I was never able to answered, and I always leave each camp a better Muslim.
I come to MYNA because of the uplifting atmosphere.
When you come to MYNA, you feel like you're at home.
It's in your heart, you know. You guys want that unity. You guys want that togetherness, that ummah.
This is my first time at MYNA camp, and MYNA has changed my life.
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 My name is Harun, and MYNA has changed my life.
MYNA has changed my life. MYNA has changed my life.
We come together to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like you guys have come from everywhere.
That Muhammad Ali said, service is the rent you pay for living in this world.